Alright everyone, hello. Now, we are here to talk about a kind of sequel to what we talked about last week. Last week I told you a little bit about tinctures and stuff like that. This time I want to talk to you about infused honey. Because imagine if you took a tincture, toned it down a lot, and made it taste good, and you've got infused honey. So, in essence, infused honey is exactly what it sounds like. It is a jar of honey that you stick a bunch of herbs into, and you wait about 3 weeks, right? You leave it in a dark, cool place for 3 weeks, and then you take the herbs out, and now you have honey that has soaked up the flavor of many different herbs. And honestly, this doesn't sound like something that would work, because people might say, well, okay, how does the honey not go bad? But that's kind of the thing about honey. Just like alcohol kills pretty much everything that comes in contact with it, so too does honey just have so much sugar that it's actually not possible for most bacteria or anything to survive in there. You can get, like, if you have a very weak immune system, or if you were like a baby or something, you can get botulism from raw honey, but like most honeys that you get off the shelf at the store, that is like weapons grade levels of sugar. In fact, I think a tablespoon of honey has more sugar in it than a tablespoon of sugar, which is crazy. But because it's so concentrated with that sugar, it really just isn't a hospitable environment for really anything to survive in there. And so, like, even things that normally feed on sugar, like yeast or like other fungus, no chance in there. And so I have definitely made infused honeys before, and I really like them. I've made one before with my summer herbs, when the herbs are all out in the summer and all my tarragon's out and my basil and, you know, all these other kinds of things. I really do like to just take some and stick it into like a little jar of honey and then kind of spoon, fish them back out. And now that honey has leached out all of the good, flavor, but also the nutritional benefits of those plants. So as I said, I don't run to the doctor for every little sniffle. If all I have is like a sore throat and a little bit of a cough, what I will do is I'll take some, cinnamon ginger tea, and I will mix my infused honey into it. Specifically my infused honey. Any honey will work, and now that I'm kind of out of my infused honey, that's all I really got. But the infused honey has those nutritional benefits. So, on top of it, it's kind of like, it's like mixing a very tasty, sweet tincture into my tea, right? You could also put a few drops of tincture into the tea, but you could also just instead use the honey. The tincture probably evaporate very quickly in a hot cup of tea. And there are all kinds of really interesting recipes for this out there. I've seen people make like onion garlic honey, which they swear by when it comes to having a sickness, right? Like they will take a jar of honey, stuff a bunch of garlic cloves and onion and like ginger and stuff into it, and they will leave that bad boy for however many weeks. And that honey, you take like a little half a spoonful, maybe a spoonful a day, every bacteria will just die. Okay, you mix two of the most baneful things, garlic and onions, and stick them in the honey, forget it. So for a green witch or a kitchen witch, yes, these are extremely helpful things, right? So when it comes to infused honey, if you know that you're putting certain things in it, like garlic and onions, that can be used for multiple different things magically on top of medicinally, right? So if you had that kind of honey, that honey is like an ass kicker honey. It's only when you have those like chili honeys, the ones that like have some spice in them, those honeys can absolutely be used as like almost like Venus flytraps, right? Where you're kind of attracting stuff because of the sweet honey and then putting it in a vice grip with all of those baneful ingredients. So they can be really good as wards. They can be really good as personal protection, right? You ingest some of that and then you kind of take in that Venus flytrap quality. Whatever you want to do with it, magically on top of mundanely, they can do a lot of stuff. But then you can also make herb honeys, which is what I've done, right? I've stuffed tarragon and rosemary and such into a jar of honey, and it took on a really complex and unique flavor that I liked a lot. It was really good. And when you mix that with, certain teas, especially neutral ones like just a cup of black tea, you get a lot of that really earthy, floral, sweet, complex flavor, as well as the benefits, as well as the magic. So if you wanted to make a rosemary honey, you could do that, and that would be really great for protection, for purification, on top of whatever benefits that rosemary has when you need it. The only thing is, it is a bit more cumbersome than tinctures, which is why it's like if you're going to have a cabinet full of shit, you probably would prefer to have a tincture, just because honey, you need some bigger jars for it. You do have to kind of scoop out a lot of the herbs and stuff, and then the herbs will take a lot of the honey with them, which really sucks. So you gotta kind of clean those off a bit. And also, it just has a tendency to crystallize because the sugar in honey over time will start to separate from the rest of it, or will just start to, you know, harden up. And so it's still good to use honey that's crystallized. It's just not gonna melt as easy. It's not gonna be as easy to spread. It's going to lose a lot of its uses, as, you know, most people use things for honey for. Like, you can't really use it in baked goods if it's crystallized, because it's not going to blend very well with the ingredients. It's like putting lightly moist, I guess, rock candy in it. It doesn't really work. So if you're planning to have something for a very long time, it's definitely not the most convenient thing. It's not the best because of those issues. But it does definitely make it a lot more palatable. It doesn't take as much out like a tincture would, and so you don't have to worry super much about like having too much. I would still be a little careful, but it's not in the same crazy level that a tincture is, where it just leaches everything out. The honey more just kind of takes on a lot of the aromatics, some of the benefits, but is a lot more toned down and a lot more palatable and a lot more usable as a culinary item on top of a medicinal item. Honey is also something that pretty much anyone can come by. So like, some people, you know, if you are someone who has your own place because you're like 19 but you can't legally buy alcohol, congratulations. Infused honeys will help you a lot, because you can always go to the store and get some honey. You're a legal adult, you can do that even if you can't get alcohol. Grab a nice bucket of honey, some fresh herbs, mix them together, stick them in a cool place for 3 weeks, and then after that, you've got a really nice honey to use in baked goods, cakes, teas, cookies, all that kinds of stuff. I mean, my maiden gnocchi recipe is already pretty magical, but if you, instead of regular honey, use some kind of infused honey, it might change the flavor, so you gotta be careful for that, but also, it's gonna add even more magic to an already very magical recipe. And you can get infused honey recipes from pretty much anywhere. If you Google, you know, infused honey recipe for, I don't know, colds, anxiety, anything like that, you could absolutely make some good stuff. Like, if you take chamomile and lavender and infuse it into some honey, that's a great honey then for like anti-anxiety, for peace, for sleep, for all that other kind of stuff. So get creative with it. Have fun mixing and matching different things. Keep in mind how things taste together. This is where, honestly, where tinctures is more green witchery, infused honey is very kitchen witchery, in that, like, you really got to pay attention to the combinations, what you can use it for, where you want to put it, how much you want to put of it, right? It's a very different ball game, because now you can get a little bit more culinary, experimental, and just have a good time with it. So, with all this said, I hope this gives you a good introduction to the wonderful realm that is possibilities of infused honey. And I also hope that your cabinet does not become full of giant jars of stuff, because that'll happen, right? But with all that said, I wish you guys a very happy weekend, and I will see you later. See ya!